All right, welcome to the very first episode of the Dojo Media Show. We are Dojo Media Co., Logan and Raphael. This is going to be a little introduction to a podcast we've had about 2 years in the making. So today we're going to talk about a little bit about us, our business, the reason we're starting the podcast, what we want to get out of it. But first and foremost, I want to shout out to the person who's let us use their store for this podcast today. Marty from Catalog Music, standing in the background over there. Absolute legend. He's let us use his store for this podcast. He's really about the community, really just wants to make creative things happen, just wants a good energy and a good vibe, which is pretty much what Dojo Media Co. is all about as well. So we just can't thank Marty enough for letting us use the space. You'll definitely see more to come from Marty and from us for sure. But I suppose, where should we start? Should we start with the start of Dojo Media Co.?
Yeah, might as well.
Do you want to hear my perspective of it?
Go for it.
So I was working as basically a media manager for Crazy Skates at the time. So that's a roller skating and scooter manufacturer essentially based in Sunshine Coast, but they sell things all over the world. And I just, no shade to them, but I just wasn't really feeling too fulfilled and kind of decided in the beginning of COVID, I always knew that I was going to start some kind of business. Like my parents are super entrepreneurial. They've always run their own business. So I kind of just, grew up with that being the norm in the household and thought, why not do it myself? At first, it didn't really seem at first I just didn't really know what it was. Like I remember talking to friends about maybe I was going to open a cafe or something. And I thought, I'd be good at taking pictures for the cafe. I'd be good at promoting the cafe, not really thinking, why not just make that the job anyway? And then lo and behold, I have a friend in a band called Scout House. They were playing at Rick's one night in, I think it would have been 2019, maybe mid 2020. And they wanted me to come along and film a set for them. There was another band performing at the time and I filmed both of their sets. And I just remember thinking the whole time, like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, imagine if I could do this for a living, like whether it's making me a lot of money or not, if I can get to see bands, get to be in this environment all the time, that would be awesome. So basically started thinking about what I could do. And I remember I basically put the feelers out there. I put posts on all social media, had a lot of talks through people on Facebook. I basically just made the long post of, I want to start this business. Spoke a little bit about my experience, kind of didn't really have any clue, what we'd get into or anything like that. I suppose I kind of knew what I didn't know when it came to business. So I knew we'd be starting in the very beginning, starting from the very beginning. And what most people said to me that responded, I'd say before you, there were maybe 5 or 6 people I spoke to, met up with a couple, and they were just all really keen to hop on a gravy train, like something that had already been started, been going. And I just didn't really respect that. I didn't respect that they weren't wanting to start from the ground up, do the hustle, do the grind, basically build it from ground zero. And there were other older people in the industry were just obviously really jaded by it, telling me all the things that were going to go wrong. And I didn't want to hear that at all. Lo and behold, you messaged me one day on Gumtree, of all places. And we can go into it a little bit further, but let's hear your perspective up until that day when you decided to message me.
For sure. It's been a long journey for me. Well, I didn't finish my last year of school, so I just dropped out because I was actually really motivated. I was going on film sets since I was in high school, like every week. I would just go out and explore, like go to TAFE courses, like short uni little things. And I just loved it. This is
while you're at school as well?
Yeah, while I was at school. So I was in Melbourne and I'd just take the train like an hour after school just to go to something.
Was this for any courses? Like were you getting credits or anything at school? Or?
This was just like short courses I'd found online that I thought I could learn from, such as like screenwriting courses and stuff like that. So my headspace was like, I'm going to make movies, although it was very daunting because it is a pretty daunting thing to think about. And then, so then I left school and I was like, shit, okay, this isn't as easy as I thought. Like now I need to figure my life out, how I'm going to make money, how I'm going to live, basically. And then all of a sudden my dad got cancer and was told he had 1 year to live, which he's better now. But that was a bit of a shock. The whole thing like just didn't feel real even. I don't think of it as like a really serious thing. It's just like a part of my life that happened.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's like, let's make a documentary about it. And I was like, okay. I'm not really into documentaries. Like, I don't see myself doing that. But then as time went past, I was like, okay, this could be cool. Like, let's just try it out. I didn't know how to use a camera. I was just like, I'll figure it out as I go. So I made that documentary, which hasn't been completed because it's a lot of work, but it'll get done. And then after that, I'd lost all of my momentum of like people that I'd met. Like all the film industry stuff just like left, and I felt pretty like...
Why? COVID or?
No, just because that year traveling, I didn't connect with the people, and I feel like trying to get in the film industry is all about momentum and like reconnecting with people. And the second you're away for a few months, you kind of lose it. You have to just like go bang, 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 hitting people up. So yeah, I was like, I just got really lost in like the world of traveling. That's like all I wanted to do, and I just kind of left it. I got a job, like random jobs, working in bottle shops, like hospitality and just random stuff like that. And then I moved to Brisbane eventually around the time of COVID. And yeah, like just, I had to get a job at some point, and I was on this job seeker, and I actually went for an interview at a cafe, and they're like, come in the next day. And then all of a sudden this job came up for a camera hire shop, and I was like, oh, I'll just go for that. I worked at the camera hire shop, met all these different people from different fields that did advertising videos, music videos, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, from there I worked there, and then at some point the boss was like, go out, explore, do your own shoots, be free, because he thought like that would be great for me and I would benefit from that. So once I left there, then it was like, what's the next thing that I'm gonna do? I actually like advertising. These things are easier to make money than making movies straight away. That's a long process that requires who knows how much time.
An insane amount of connections too. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I suppose I missed out the fact that I went to film school, and they told me every single day we're there, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know.
Yeah.
And even though they told me this every day, every day that goes by, I understand it even more.
Yeah. That's why we focus so much on who we know and trying to always meet interesting people. But yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll just try my own thing under my own name, meet different people, try and start something. And then saw your post on Gumtree. I was like, can't hurt to message. So
And
that was a bit of a lead up to all that.
what do you remember the post saying? And why were you inclined to respond? Because obviously we didn't know each other at all. Like there was nothing, I don't think I had any examples to my work. I think I basically, the spiel I gave in the beginning of this podcast is kind of what was in the post, really.
I guess I always just like to take a risk and just see what will happen. Mm-hmm. What I remember more is that we didn't actually meet up straight away. I think it took like a month or two. Like there was a time, I'm pretty certain, where we were about to meet up, and then you had some family things going on and we had to postpone it. So my actual first thought was like, is this going to happen or not? Like, are we going to actually meet, or is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure you've had the same thing too. Like when you work a random job with someone, how many times have you been told, oh, we're going to work together all the time? Sure. Like, yeah.
People promise all sorts of opportunities. So it's actually pretty amazing to think that we're here today, like 2 years or so after, or maybe more.
Yeah, about 2.5 years now. Well, I think we met that fateful day. So I can't remember if there was a postponement or whatever, but I remember we were supposed to meet somewhere in Stafford, like some bar or something, maybe. And then I think one of us was running a little bit late. One of us wanted to get something. You wanted to get something to eat, and I was like, "There's a GYG at Stafford, so we may as well meet there." And there's a little.
It seems like nothing overly interesting, but it's like an iconic thing between us now.
Yeah,
like
GYG for us. If we ever get to work with GYG, that'll be
the goal one day.
That'll be a full circle. We could basically rid our hands of Dojo at that point. Not that we ever would, but so I remember I remember asking you a little bit about what you did, like in the texts. I think again, basically we just sort of spoke about what we'd been up to in the last kind of 6 months. I remember showing up to GYG. The first thing we spoke about, I think, was your dad in the documentary and the fact that you'd been overseas traveling and that you were making that passion project. And I remember that was definitely really interesting. Like for me, it was good to know that there was something like that. Immediately told me you weren't just in it for the money. Like there was passion behind it. You also wanted to experiment. Like I think you said that your dad kind of bought you the gear to make the documentary sort of thing, and then you were kind of just like making it up on the fly, playing with it.
Sure.
And that was definitely like, look, I suppose a little bit alarming because I'd been to film school. I'm a few years older than you. I'd been to film school. I have a diploma in screen and media, so I guess I had the technical knowledge at the time. But I remember what really drew me to, I guess, we didn't start the thing, obviously. We knew we needed to have a couple of jobs together to see how we worked before we wanted to dive into business. But I remember what made me keen to actually do that was, the fact that you were basically just keen to experiment. You were keen to hustle from the ground up. You were keen to build something. Yeah. But I also remember we didn't show each other any work at GYG. And that,
I think that's kind of funny though, because that's usually the first thing that you do.
Yeah, like whenever we message a client, they're like, can you show me some work? To me, it just wasn't about that at all. It was purely about the attitude. Like, I guess what I was going to say, it was a little bit alarming, I suppose, to know that you didn't have any like technical training. Yeah. But I also figured like, if I want to be a business owner, I kind of need to be a bit of a leader as well. Yeah. So if there's anything that I feel like I could teach you or help you with, I thought that was just going to happen anyway.
Well, on that, I actually feel like I have learned heaps from you. Like part of my style that is now is from seeing like us on the same jobs and how you've edited it. Like I definitely think I've learned a lot from your editing style.
Awesome.
I didn't know if you knew that.
No, I mean, I definitely see an improvement. I see an improvement with all of our stuff over the years. But like, I remember like making our very first little show reels. Let me finish the GYG story first. Yeah, for sure. What I remember, how it ended was we had the whole chat. We I guess we didn't shake on it or anything or say anything specific, but we knew that we were then going to at least like have a shoot together, see if it was going to work out. And I remember we walked outside of GYG, we were just about to part ways. It was in the car park. And I said to you, like, if we do this, there's going to be so much we have no idea about. Like, we're diving in to the deep end totally. We have no idea. And I was like, but you sound like you're keen to learn what you don't know about, much like me. And you're keen to get into these situations and these opportunities. And that was basically what sold me there. And then obviously we did do a few jobs together. Yeah. And it turned out well. Like, I remember our first job together was the wedding at Turbine Waters. It was like, it went pretty smoothly from what I remember. Like, obviously we didn't know each other too well. There were probably some teething pains, but I remember like the job got done. The edit was fine.
I think it was pretty good. Actually.
Yeah. And like, it was, I don't know. I think kind of from there, we've just known that we can work. I suppose what it is we kind of we know what we need without saying too much. Whereas I know we've said, when we've brought other videographers and other people on, they just ask so many questions. And it's obviously it's good to be curious and ask questions, but sometimes it's just questions that don't relate. They're just irrelevant, they're unnecessary, or it's just like on a
not just that, but just like getting in the shots, like in our shots, and just like not being on the same side. Like there's just something where like if I'm on the left side, you're on the right, we just read the room quite well.
Yeah, totally. And I guess from there we just started diving in head first. But I suppose another interesting thing is there was always, not until a few months ago, we weren't really both committed at the same time. There was a period in the beginning, I was working full time. And I remember saying to you, I have the money, you have the time. So you spend the time, I'll spend the money on what we can. So I bought all sorts of gear. You were out networking, messaging people, talking to people, which you got us work that I never would have gotten working at Crazy Skates full time. Yeah. And I guess I got us gear that just wouldn't have happened in the reverse situation.
Definitely.
But we were just never really doing it at the same time, full time. There was the first sort of 6 to 12 months where like you were in it a little bit more. Then there was a period where I was in it. Yeah. You had your family situation going on, whether you want to dive into that or not. I don't know if that's really changed the trajectory of the business. I thought it would, but it hasn't. And then, you started working for someone again, then I started working for another person, and then kind of just this year it came to a head. Like, I think I said this to you the other day, because what it was, I went and got the marketing manager job at X-Recruiter. Shout out to X-Recruiter. They also have a podcast, Confessions of a Recruiter. Great guys. Like, the reason I left, nothing to do with them, purely just wanting to do our own thing. And they were super supportive as well, which is awesome. They've gotten me work like since then, so we've left on great terms. But we both dived into it finally, and it's kind of just blown up since then.
Yeah.
What's been the most significant part of Dojo for the last couple of years for you?
Well, like on that is just, I'm pretty happy that we've been consistent with it. Like one of the things
that's it too. I remember we've also said like we keep showing up. Like we've never really had.
Do you reckon we've even gone like one full week without speaking to each other since we met? Maybe once or twice, but not much.
I think
there's always some level of communication, even if one of us is way busier than the other, which is great.
I know for a fact there was a time where I was talking to you more than like Ellen, my girlfriend.
Really?
Like, yeah, day to day. Like I would text you before her, not because like I didn't want to talk to her, you know, but like there's just, people have said running a business is kind of like a marriage. Like you really are together all the time. Like, yeah.
And then the business is like your baby.
Essentially, yeah. It is our baby, and we obviously have to spend. And that's why I guess we are spending as much time as possible on it now.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, what were you going to say about commitment?
Well, like I was just going to say, like one thing we even forget or don't really talk about is when we did start, there was still COVID and there was a few pretty sick events that we were wanting to shoot, and we were out there doing like free stuff, which I actually am supportive of, even though a lot of people don't like it and think you need to get paid a fortune straight away. Like, no, just hustle and like get there. Just make contacts. But yeah, like we had cool stuff that was cancelled or moved dates that could have really put us off.
Yeah.
It's just those little things.
Yeah, we chose a terrible industry to go into at the time we did. Yeah.
Well, that like in the sense that we were really into events more than others.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, not video itself, but yeah, like a lot of live.
It's better than if we were in Melbourne, but I mean, yeah, it was challenging.
Yeah.
But that's just an example of different times where we've just said like, let's just keep going. Like, yeah, I'll mention it that I have a kid as well. And like a few weeks after I had the kid, like, yes, I was really focused on the baby, but like we got some of our best jobs that we've done so far. And I was like, I just have to take that opportunity. I'm not going to miss out on something so big. Like, I'm going to be here for the kid forever. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sort of like you said, like it really is at the point now where if we hopped off the bandwagon for a month, 2 months, it would be potentially detrimental. Like we could lose.
I think the biggest thing about having a business is momentum.
Yeah.
Like that's where people struggle. It's not about getting a huge job every week.
Well, it's the same with like branding and stuff too, like marketing and posting content. Like I know you've always been a bit more consistent with posting the actual content than me, but I know how important it is because it's the same thing. Showing up for a job every day is almost the same thing as like showing up on social media every day, like being in front of people, being in people's ether. Like
just creating that trust and people seeing it over and over. Or like, I just even feel if someone books us in for the first time in 2 months and they already know they're going to have us there, but it's just so nice for them to see like, oh, these guys are busy. Like I can trust them.
Why do you think that's so important for a photographer and a videographer? Like, why is this a job that the relationship, is it because we're capturing such intimate moments with people, or?
No, I've just heard so many stories of people being unreliable. Just to be honest, I don't judge, like everyone's like, we're not perfect and have our own things we're working on, but I've just heard a lot of stories of people coming really late or just all sorts of stuff. And I think people really appreciate you putting in that effort.
Yeah, I think some people bring more problems than solutions sometimes. And ego too, like we were talking about ego earlier today. I know someone that lost the job through apparently having too much ego, and I think that's a big thing too. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I have a pretty big ego, but it doesn't make me think that I'm better than anyone. Like, I love myself, but it doesn't mean that I think I'm better than someone else, you know?
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway, we're kind of digressing. I'm sure there'll be so much more we could really talk about.
All right, well, do you want to just say quickly, like, what's something you're really proud of that we've done?
Something that I'm really proud of, outside of film, TV, video, music is my love. That's why I'm so happy we get to film this in catalog music, like thinking of movies like Be Kind, Rewind, Clerks and stuff like that. It just, the idea of like working in a video store or like a record shop has just always been such a like idealized thing to me. So being able to like be in the atmosphere itself it's fucking sick. But that being said, I got to photograph one of my favorite bands, Palace, last year. Like they were my Spotify top listen. All 5 tracks were them. I was the top 1% in the world of listeners for them apparently, and I got to photograph them. That was amazing. Like literally be as close as that camera is, I was to the lead singer. And obviously that's been the case with so many other things. We got to film Archie Roach's last show. That was amazing. Obviously at the time we didn't know it was going to be his last Brisbane show, but to know that was incredible.
I think that is just something really interesting that I just want to mention quickly. Is like, he's not really the type of artist many people in their 20s listen to. He's more of an older age artist, but something really connected me to him. And there was a time where like I was really struggling in my life and I was listening to him a lot, and I thought to myself, I'd love to meet him or like record something with him. Yeah. And that was a cool moment that happened a few years later. Yeah. And like getting that job, I had to call his manager like 10 times and email and just follow up with it.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is like how much empty communication goes on to like get a job sometimes, or in this, even when like something can get 3 weeks into negotiation and then the plugs just get pulled on it, whether it's they find someone else or
like the Noosa job.
Yeah.
I sent them like really detailed emails.
That's
like,
what
I was spending 20-30 minutes on each email.
Yeah. And then, well, there was the also, like, was it Montville or Noosa that was meant to be this week that was cancelled for a completely different reason, just unforeseen circumstances. So I think that's a huge part. But finishing on what I'm proud of, also like, Big Sound was a huge. We filmed Big Sound last year. We were hired by Q Music to do that, so we got to hire. I basically put my producer hat on. Had to find some people.
That was cool.
That was actually funnily. Let's dive into that. Big Sound was the first week of me having a new job. So I was working 40 hours a week, and then I was working. So I was waking up at 5:30 in the morning to get to work.
I've never done that
7.
in my life. I've never had to wake up like consistently that early.
I would wake up at 5:30, get to work at 7, finish at 5. We'd start Big Sound. I think we started at about 7 at night, and we'd go through till either 12 or 1 a.m. depending on the night.
Shit. How many coffees did you drink the next day?
Oh,
were you just living on caffeine?
I was pretty zombie mode. I definitely remember that. Like
in your first few days.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and it was. But that being said, it was also some of your first days of being a father. So it was like a crazy time for Dojo, a crazy time for our personal lives as well. Yeah. But I
feel like that's just what happens when things are like the most intense stuff happens back.
Yeah, and I think like it's also, I guess the energy we were putting out there was so like new. There's so many new things happening that like new things were coming to us as well. I'm a full believer in the energy you put out there, you get back. Yeah. Definitely. Sort of like we were talking with Marty before about when you walk into a store and you don't want to talk to someone. I was almost going to butt in and say, it's funny, like if I walk into a store and I don't want to talk to anyone, no one will like even look at me, no one will say anything to me. But if I walk into it, I think it's a combination of body language, of energy. If you walk into a store and you want people to talk to you, you don't even instigate the conversation. People are just going to come up to you. A lady at the supermarket's going to say, do you mind getting this thing off the top shelf for me? That kind of thing.
You know something I actually want to say, like kind of related to that, about giving good energy. One huge thing I've learned from a business perspective, which I actually need to remind myself all the time, is every time you meet someone, you have to treat them like you're going to see them again. Like, it's hard to like listen to every detail. It's hard to give them that energy because you think you're never going to see them. But like, how many times have you seen someone a few months later and be like, I wish I remembered their name, or like, I'm happy I did. I'm happy I remember one detail about their life.
I think that's definitely a business owner thing, because when you're an employee, you kind of just go about your day. You might meet people, but you don't. That's
huge, though. That's really huge. You can't underestimate it.
No, like again, it just goes back to who you know. But to continue on the energy you put out there, let's talk about the energy we're trying to put out there with the podcast. Yeah. The Dojo Media Show, hosted by Dojo Media Co. So basically, I'll say what I want out of it. You tell me what you want out of it, and then we'll come together and make it happen.
Let's do it.
I've always been fascinated by creators and creation. Yeah. So I want to basically uncover business owners, artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, anyone that's made something, whether it's artistic, whether it's physical, tangible, whatever it is. I just want to know the motivation behind it, but also want to be able to promote it. Like we're in the game of promotion. I have a marketing background. All we do is like promote events and businesses and that sort of thing. So I want to be able to cultivate a bit of a community, a bit of a creative community,
Do you think that is something that's already in Brisbane, or like to what degree?
That's what I'm going to say. I think I want to focus it on Brisbane to start with, because I remember when I first moved here, I'm from Auckland, Auckland, New Zealand. When I first moved here, it seemed like Queensland was a tradie state. Like you become a sparky or a plumber, that's kind of it. But starting Dojo and actually like finding ourselves in these inner circles, there is creativity here.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's promoted. Well, I know that it's not promoted anywhere near as well as places like Melbourne and Victoria.
Or just like sport, like rugby.
Yeah.
It's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I love sports myself, but I just really want to uncover creatives.
I mean, like the film industry, the big movies are coming to Gold Coast and all that. Like that stuff. We're talking more like the underground.
Yeah, like artists. I mean, even the big bands, you know, from Australia are usually from Melbourne, or something, and like
generally,
So there's that. I want to uncover that in Brisbane.
Yeah.
I want to uncover. I basically just want to cultivate some sort of creative community.
Yeah.
Marty, the owner of Catalog, has also said it's about getting the energy in places, and I think if we're surrounded by that kind of energy, we're giving out that energy as well. It's gonna.
I think on that, like, people in Brisbane can be a little bit negative about it, like, oh, I want to move to Melbourne or Sydney or whatever. But like, what about just making it better here? Like, why don't we just do that?
We've spoken about moving cities before. Like, it may still happen, but
it's possible.
We've said that, like, if there isn't something here, why don't we make it here? Like, if there isn't a big music scene here, why don't we make it here? And like, obviously there are things happening. Big Sound was happening whether we were going to be there or not, but I just really want to be able to promote it from a bit more of a grassroots level as well. Yeah. And also get to know the people behind the creation, because personality trumps anything. Like, people are going to appreciate Dojo because of Logan and Raph, not because of the logo and the red dot, you know? Like, and that's kind of, I've always been, I guess less so these days because I'm slightly less impressionable, but like if I fell in love with a band, I needed to know the lead singer's cat's name. Like, I needed to know everything about them. I needed to watch any interview.
I used to be like that with movies. I had to know the director, the soundtrack artist, everything.
Yeah. So it's like I've got just an encyclopedia of useless names in my head of people that I may one day meet, but probably am never going to meet. But yeah, that's a huge reason. There's many reasons for wanting this podcast to happen, but the big reason is uncovering some creative juice. How about you?
Something we've definitely said is you've always like loved podcasts and watched millions of them. It's not been as much of my thing, but I do love the idea of I mean, my answer's a bit similar, like just asking people questions you'd never normally ask.
But what you love, things like the soft white underbelly, right? Like,
I would say in a way like
people's stories.
Yeah, this could be the closest thing to making a documentary, which is something we will do a lot of, but you can't do that every week, and it's, you know, it takes time and money and artistic expression. Like, this is just something we can do regularly, you know. Yeah.
What do you want other people to get out of Dojo Media Show?
Out of the show, I just want people to watch it and just know what's out there, like kind of get out of their bubble. Like, I'm not even going to say what I want is just for people to be inspired. Like, if they are, that's fine. But I want people to get out of their like bubble and small worlds, because like that's what I love about our business. Is,
do you think it would inspire you if you were watching a podcast of another Brisbane videographer talking about their trials and tribulations though? Like, do you think that's
definitely.
Positive benefit?
No, I mean, like, it's good if it does inspire people. It's not like my main goal. It's more just for people to say like, I want to get out of my own little world. I want to meet this person. I'm interested in that person. Like, I find the most limiting thing you can do in your life is to only hang out with a certain type of people.
100%.
Like, it's just a huge thing about
Or people that you only agree with.
Yeah, or people with the same opinions, like all that.
I'm a huge believer. Like, I've got so many friends that I love them to death. Yeah. But like, for instance, they're super left. And they just refuse to hang out with someone that like even has a little bit of a right perspective. And to me, that's, like you said, it's limiting. Sense to me. Yeah, it's limiting. It just means you're going to be, people on the left complain about people being in echo chambers, but it's like, it's all an echo chamber if all you're doing is just...
I want like a TikToker to watch some model who watches some comedian who watches an actor and just like create that energy. I just think that's so cool. Like, why can't we all be friends?
Yeah. That's another thing we were talking about earlier. Like, we want to be collaborators, not competitors with people. Obviously some people...
That's the thing, we don't see other people as competition because we can all help each other. Like, I know that sounds a bit cliche and whatever, but we really can. Like, the amount of videographers that have given us jobs and we've given, it's just like a cool thing.
Yeah.
You don't do that in every industry.
No. And I think, well, is that what you would say is probably, I wouldn't even say it's exclusive to photography and videography, like specifically what we do, but I think any sort of creative endeavor is you do get yourself in these, you meet just all sorts of different people. Like with that, I guess.
Like that is something we're extremely lucky to be able to do. I appreciate that. I hope other people do that too.
Like I remember, again, it's going to sound like I'm throwing shade on my last job, which I'm not at all. But when I was driving in the area recently, it was driving the same route from my house to that place. And I just remember thinking like, damn, it's crazy. I used to do this every day and like just interact with the same people every day. And now like last week, for instance, I drove like almost 1,000 kilometers in a week, but I interacted with so many people. I was at a business summit with Danny Green, the boxer. Like, I didn't think I was going to be in a room with him, barely even knew who he was. And it's still like, wow, people are enamored by this person. That's actually a funny thing too, is like when you're actually at somewhere and someone's a bit of a big deal and you kind of don't really have any idea who they are.
That's happened a few times.
Yeah. But no, so I think,
like even on that though, it's not even just about famous people at all.
No,
it's just the variety.
Yeah, it's anybody. Like you get to
meditation and yoga. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it's also hearing the, I suppose like the same thing we want to get out of the podcast is being able to talk to other creatives and business owners and entrepreneurs, hearing the reasons why they do it.
Yeah, the backstory.
Yeah.
And like also, not gonna lie, like we want it to take us places too. Like we want to get a lot out of it. We want the people on it to get a lot out of it. Like there's got to be some further reasons to it too.
Yeah. And there's obviously, again, we'll shout out to our man at Catalog Music, Marty. We want
this awesome guy who is just a legend.
Has an absolute heart of gold, to be honest. But it's, without sucking Marty off too much, like it's truly about like getting energy around. Like much like the energy that Marty's putting out to us, we want to give that back. We want to bring more of that inside the store. Like if it can result in people coming in here buying records, like I know I'm going to definitely over the next few weeks. I'm maybe a little bit old school in this sense, but I still collect vinyl.
That's good.
Anyone in Brisbane, anyone that is ever visiting Brisbane, if you collect vinyl, come here and buy some, because there's some rare presses that you may not find too many other places.
Definitely. And there's just a community vibe here. It's not just the records, it's events and all sorts of stuff too.
Yep. And I think at the end of the day, community is probably the most important thing in anything. Whether it's the people in your immediate family, like there's a J. Cole song where it's like, it's called Love Yours. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but he basically talks about like, you're not going to be happy in your life until you love the people that are around you. And I truly believe that so much. Like, not that we love the people that we work, like we're not in love with the people that we work with, but like we love being around them.
I love you guys all.
We love being around them. We love interacting with them, you know, like it's having that and the open-mindedness, like you said. I think when you work in, or when you're maybe not a business owner, or when you're working in a little bit of a sheltered life, or you're living a bit of a sheltered life, obviously your community and your circle is a little bit smaller too. And for so many reasons that's limiting. But I think just opening that up, it really starts making you think in a different way. Like you think about all the different possibilities, all the different things you can do. Like you have more resources at your fingertips. You have more, I don't know, I think you just get more of a collective consciousness too. Like there's just so much about.
Let's just say, like, just an example, say the wrestling that you do, like there are people in Brisbane who like wrestle each other so hard that there's blood everywhere and stuff. Like most people probably don't know that even exists in Brisbane, do they?
No, I'm a huge wrestling, like professional wrestling fan when it comes to like the American brands.
You wouldn't think
I didn't have any
he would
idea
take it so seriously. Like
No.
there's all these little pockets of things that, like even just through our page, I'm pretty happy we can share with people.
Yeah,
you know.
I think that's a good way to put it. We're like shining light on these little pockets that aren't really getting exposed too much.
Exactly.
And that's awesome. Like it's,
the idea would go from filming events and being an event videographer and to like a documentary maker and telling full stories or turning it into movies.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's where we're keen for Dojo to go. Dojo Media Co. The business.
Don't forget the co.
Yeah. Don't forget the dot. Yeah, so that's the intention for that, is hopefully we can start
Yeah.
maybe even collaborating with some of these creatives that we have on, and if we can help them achieve a vision, they can help us achieve a vision. That's not even what we're doing it for, but by proxy that would be awesome.
Do you want to ask each other like a really random or personal question?
Have you got one in mind?
If you talk to your 5 or 8-year-old self, let's just say, and they knew that you're in the position you are now, how do you think they would have felt about it?
When I was 8, I was like practicing my Oscar speech in the mirror. Like I genuinely thought I was going to be like an actor.
That's so funny. I actually wanted to be an actor.
I really wanted to be an actor. I was pretty big into it until high school as well. Yeah. And actually I only went to film school instead of acting school. Well, I chose film because I had no musical talent and figured the closest I can get to music without being a musician is
filming music videos and stuff.
So before that, I wanted to be an actor though, and I kind of thought the chances of me making any sort of life out of acting are way lower than even a musician, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think my 8-year-old self would be like pretty shocked. I never thought I'd have a business. I thought I'd be pretty far in life at this point, to be honest. I thought I would have maybe made some movies and that kind of thing. I'm only 26, like I've got plenty of time. Like I think I saw Christopher Nolan was the youngest. He won some director award when he was like in his mid 40s, and he was the youngest person to ever win that. So I was like, shit, still got like.
Is it like a thing for people who want to be in the film industry to put a lot of pressure on themselves? Is that just a thing, or like do you just have to say like I'm gonna do it and hustle like as quick as I can?
I think it's sort of what you were dancing around before. Like you can make like. I don't think you realize there are other sets out there until you're on them. So you kind of maybe think for a while all you can actually do is create these things.
Just movie things.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people get stuck in that mindset.
Yeah.
But what I think my 8-year-old self would say, I think they'd definitely be proud that like Dojo is ours. I kind of imagined I'd maybe be doing similar stuff, but probably like for someone else.
Yeah. Right.
So I think, the fact
that is a pretty young age now that I think about it. Maybe I should have said 15. But yeah, I like your answer. What
would you tell 15-year-old Raph?
That is something I wish I could do that. I would just say stop stressing so much. I mean, I still do it now, but like just relax, things will work out. I've always been like, I have to know how things are going to happen. I've got to see this path. I've got to work things out.
Well, this might be a good way to
just leave it up to trust.
Yeah, it might be a good way to wrap it then. Before Dojo started, specifically during COVID, I remember having this niggling feeling all the time. I could trace it back to when I was like a teenager of just there was something I'm not doing and I'm running out of time for it. Yeah. And I had no idea what it was. I would say this to people. I thought it was just like an anxiety I had, that I was just constantly feeling like there was something I should be doing that I wasn't.
Yeah.
Since we started Dojo, I haven't felt that at all. I've felt it maybe like day by day. Like yesterday I think I maybe started working at 10 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. and I was like, shit, there's stuff I need to do. So there's that, but there's not like, I don't have this grating feeling at the back of my head that I'm like wasting time, or that there's something that, because even if Dojo all falls apart now, like I know I've given it a go. Like I put the time into it.
Yeah.
I tried the thing.
Sure. I kind of always wanted to set my life up so like I didn't have a backup option. Like I have the complete opposite mentality. I don't want a lot of skills in life. I don't want to know everything. I just like want one thing, and if it fails, there's no option. Like I just have to find a way to make it work.
I think a safety net is the most dangerous thing for people, to be honest.
If you think of it like that, it really is.
Yeah, like that's.
I think
this is getting way out.
A lot of music people, like a lot of creative people, do that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and look, I've had the safety net of like a salary while building Dojo, but that's kind of different. Like, to me, a good example is I came over here to work.
Yeah.
A part of it was so I couldn't get on the dole. Yeah. Like I didn't want to just be able to be like, oh, I don't need a job. I can just fucking have the government give me money every week. So like during COVID, I didn't get a single cent from JobSeeker, whatever that shit was. I had to work the whole time. Probably illegally.
That's a good mentality. That's a good attitude though.
Yeah. And like I didn't want the thought of like, if I'm shit here, I can just.
I've had to use Centrelink a bit. Shout out to Centrelink.
It's like, look, my family's had to. Like it's something I grew up on. So it's like I knew exactly
I guess I
know what that
I
life
didn't
is
grow
like.
up around it at all, so it's like the opposite of you in that sense.
Yeah.
Like,
So I knew, and I'm not even saying that the people in my family were using it as a safety net. I well and truly think they like needed it.
they needed it. Yeah.
But not even to say that like I wouldn't need it if I was in that situation. But I think just to wrap this up, I think safety nets are a terrible idea. And the main reason I didn't want to do something or become like a citizen was so that this was what I had to do. I had to be all in doing this. And any closing words?
I love this business. It means a lot to me.
We should actually say the first episode is probably going to be one of the only ones with just us. We are going to have guests.
And unless people cancel last minute, which is bound to happen.
Yep.
But no, I just want to say, like, do stuff that means a lot to you. Like, this does mean a lot to me. And I just want to look back in 10 years for myself and just know that, like, it meant a lot to me from the start.
So find your passion.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't have to be your vocation, but it's like if you like painting, take 2 hours a week to paint, you know? I think you'll be so much happier.
Cool, that was great. Can we shake?
That's Dojo Media Show episode 1. Thanks for listening.